This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. No one wants to get sick. No one wants to be ill. A lot of us take precautions with that and try to boost our immune system and just stay out of doctors' offices and laid up in bed. But are we doing the right thing in supporting our immune systems? How does the immune system even work? Let's talk to a professional. She runs a functional and integrative wellness practice, runs deep on all of this stuff, learned a lot, even in the few times that we've gotten together with Dr. Debbie Novick, who is back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Steve. How are you?
I have a Purell dispenser on my wall, just out of view, right over there. And that's what I pilot by, and I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but when I walk through the room every once in a while, let me take a hit of that. I like to stay healthy. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. What should we know when it comes to our immune system? What are the first thoughts that come to mind that you want to share with everybody else?
Well, I think the first thing I want to share is actually a webinar, and actually an in-person seminar I did right out of school, right when I first started my practice. And it was put on by a company called Apex Energetics, who were working very heavily with homeopathy. But the guy who was lecturing was a homeopath. And the lecture he gave was an eye-opener for me. And what he said was this. He said, okay, people, I want you to understand how your immune system works, how your body works, and how much it will let you know when it is alive, responsive, and protective of your system. And those ways are the ways that you don't desire to have these symptoms when you're sick, right? The runny nose, the cough, the diarrhea, the vomiting, the whatever, all of it. And he said, I want you to know, because he was talking to an audience of doctors, that if a patient walks into your room and says to you, I have not even had a sniffle in 5 years, worry a lot about them. Because what that means is that their body has not talked to them, is not responding, is not active. It's not saying, hey, I just, breathed in a little piece of dust out too. Hey, I just ingested something bad in my food and I don't have any symptoms. So that means the immune system is compromised. It's not doing well. And very likely a person who hasn't been sick, not even a sniffle for 5 years, might be developed some kind of precancerous condition. So
gosh, this is like a mind blow here, because the rest of us, when we hear those things from people, we're like, well, good for you. And then you think, what am I doing wrong? I was sick like 3 weeks ago, 5 months, whatever. But they didn't get sick. That's the thing. Right. What happened there? Were they not exposed to germs?
No,
they got lucky?
The immune system is not responding. It's not reactive. It's not alert. It's not saying, hey, I picked something up. Now I'm going to do this to get this, whatever has gotten into my body out. Whether it's a single sneeze or a full-on flu, cold, or whatever it is your body needs to do to get rid of what it just got exposed to or what shouldn't be in there. And the immune system is a very intelligent system. It grows as it gets exposed to more things. In other words, a child is born without an immune system. I don't know if you know this, but they're not. They don't have an immune system because they don't have an intestinal tract that's fully developed. And 85% of your immune system lives in your intestinal tract. So they grow their immune system by getting exposed to germs. So the first germs they get exposed to is when they come out of the vaginal tract. Then they get exposed to germs when they're nursing, with mom's skin. Then they get exposed to germs as they get out in the world and they start interacting with the world and sticking their hands in their mouth and eating their boogers and blah, 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 right? So that's how they grow their immune systems. And the diseases that children suffer as children are due to not so much everybody likes to call viruses, but to toxins. So they get exposed to toxins and the body reacts a certain way to certain toxins. And there's three parts of the immune system. There's the first line of defense, which is your nose, your lungs, your intestines, your skin. And that part of the immune system is always alert, always, very looking out to see what's going on and reacting to whatever you get exposed to. So that's the immune system that protects you. That's the immune system that produces mucus and coughs and, loose bowels and hives and temperature. That's the immune system that is working hard, the first line of defense. And then the second part of the immune system is the part that comes from the bone marrow, which is where all the red blood cells and white blood cells grow, but it's where the antibodies are made. That's what where the antibodies get reactive. And so what everybody thinks is once you get an antibody, well, you're protected for life. Well, first of all, antibody doesn't do that. All an antibody does is register exposure. It's like a census. It says, hey, first line of defense, look at this garbage that you've seen before, recognize it, now do the same thing you did before. So that's what it's doing. It's just registering exposure. And then the immune system is possibly a lot quicker at putting this under control and not having you have any symptoms, or handling it well. And then the third part of the immune system is called the regulatory immune system. It's what they call the T cells. And what that does is it balances the other two. It keeps the first line and the second line from overreacting. Okay, so you want them to stay, friends with each other and work together. And so in order to support your immune system, there are a lot of things you can do. And when you said immune boost, okay, so how do you boost the strength and the ability of the immune system to protect you? Well, there's several antioxidants because when our body reacts to an illness, it produces what are called oxidants. There's all kinds of chemicals the cells produce that make you sneeze and cough and blah, 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 runny nose. And so the antioxidants put the blanket on it and also support the T cells, the regulatory cells. And those nutrients, there's 5 really powerful nutrients that do a really good job at boosting the T cells and improving the good chemicals production and, kind of calming down and putting the blanket on the fire, the inflammation. Vitamin D, and minimally 5,000 units a day with K, which helps absorb. And then omega-3s.
So let's go there. We're at this juncture. Vitamin D. So I had labs done 2 years ago. It came back with the lowest level of vitamin D they have ever seen. And I didn't realize the importance of vitamin D. I know it's important, but not to the level of you need vitamin D because it helps you absorb other minerals and vitamins. And I wasn't really having any symptoms, but now that I trace it back, I would think, a little brain foggy, maybe a little lethargic, et cetera, et cetera. And they gave me 50,000 units, take it once a week, did it for, I don't know, a month or whatever. And levels came up to normal. Due for new labs now, been a while. 5,000 a day is okay. And I hear about
minimum recommended daily allowance.
Wow. Right? Wow. Because my concern is overdoing it. I've heard, read things. Of course, so I'm reading this stuff. So then you get served up posts about it. So then I see, people taking too much vitamin D, but minimum 5,000 a day is okay.
And you can monitor that, right? You can do a blood test. There's blood tests to check your vitamin D levels.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, you start taking vitamin D. And then you, like your doctors did, you did a baseline, you were horrible, you started taking some, then we checked it again, and you were more normal now.
Sure.
So obviously you don't need to be taking 50,000 once a week for the rest of your life, right? Once you get it to a normal level, the other question is, okay, why can't I make vitamin D from the sun? Well, that's the primary way that people usually think they're going to make vitamin D, but sometimes the body's not able to do it for whatever defect issue, or just because you have a little bit of extra fat or weight on you, it's more difficult for the rays of the sun to penetrate through that. And
that's kind of funny, but not in a way, but okay.
There's times when the body can't do it, right? And as far as how toxic can you get with vitamin D? Well, that's debatable. Okay, because there's been a standard set for a certain level of vitamin D in the body, and then because it's oil based, they say it's not soluble, so it could build up in toxicity. Well, it
Mm.
depends on the person, because there was a student when I was teaching at naturopathic university that was working for a research outfit that was researching how much vitamin D people needed. And so they had all these different people taking vitamin D and watching their health, their health challenges and their health markers. And they found that some people actually did better when they had much higher amounts of vitamin D than recommended than other people. And when they let them drop, things didn't go well. So some of these people were, their levels were over 100 on a blood test, and they were fine. They were doing well. But this is why you have to check person to person. I'm not going to say everybody go overload, but I'm saying keep it at a level that is high average. So between 60 and 80 is what I usually recommend people keep their vitamin D, because that's going to help the most, because it helps with sleep, it helps with bone density, it helps with inflammation, it helps with immune response. So it's a very important vitamin to take.
Wow. You started on vitamin K. What can you say about that?
Well, vitamin K and vitamin D are taken together because they help each other absorb and get in the system. Now, with vitamin K, there's only one thing I have to say cautionary is when people are on blood thinners, because they create clots. Well, vitamin K clots your blood. So you may not be able to give somebody on blood thinners D with K. You may just have to be able to do D because of the K issue.
Wow. Talking immune system, I've heard these things, vitamin C. And back in the day, I used to take like 1,000 milligrams a day, then zinc.
Sure.
What do you think?
Absolutely. I think zinc is a very important immune boosting or supportive nutrient. And I always tell people to take it with copper, because minerals in the body have antagonists. And if you don't take them together, one depletes the other. So you want to take a 30-to-1 ratio. So that is, if you're taking 35 milligrams of zinc, you're going to take 3 milligrams of copper. And that's going to balance things out.
And I just want to add, in my journey, I discovered this, that zinc can wreak havoc on your stomach. So be careful with that. Yeah. And I had a ulcer festering, didn't know it was an ulcer. And I'd be driving and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a zinc lozenge. You know what? What the heck not? It's almost like good candy. Let me pop another one. And after a period of time, I was like, well, what's going on in my stomach? It was the zinc doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I generally tell people to take zinc with food.
Okay.
Don't take it alone.
Definitely.
And actually, you need zinc to resolve, if you have any ulcers, actually, you need the zinc to repair the ulcer.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And then vitamin C, yes, the thing with vitamin C for me is it has to be from a food base, not ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid, I think, is fractionated, extracted. It sometimes doesn't create the outcomes that you want. So make sure it comes from some kind of food source, like, acerola cherry or camu camu or, blueberries or strawberries, something that's food-based when you take vitamin C.
Good to know, because here I am thinking after this conversation, I'm going to go back on that vitamin C, pop that bottle open and do one. Is there any harm?
Here's one I can show you. I don't know, it's backwards.
Yep, I can see it. No, it's perfectly readable.
Oh, good. So it's Vibrant Health, and this is made from 100% fruits.
Wow.
Vitamin C. So you're getting imagine you're eating a bowl of fruit instead of taking some kind of extracted nutrient that is not natural.
Fair enough. I actually wrote that down because I think the vitamin C that's in my cabinet is probably expired. So it's like the universe, and you were saying, get rid of that. Either this or eat fruit.
Right.
What else? What else can you tell us about? I find this fascinating, by the way, Debbie. This is so cool. We're dispelling myths along the way here too. What else?
Yeah, and then germ theory, I think, is one that is a favorite topic of mine, because the germ theory was postulated in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And they thought that bugs created disease, right? That viruses created disease. And as time has gone on, that myth has been dispelled. It's not true. Okay. Obviously, yes, if you're going to eat a bunch of dirty pond water, you're going to get sick. But the premise is that it's not the germ that makes you sick, it's the state of your health. What level of health are you at that can adapt and overcome the exposure to illnesses? And so that's what matters. So they call it terrain theory. So what is the amount of good bacteria in your intestines? What is the state of your circulatory system? What is the state of your digestive tract? How is everything functioning? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting enough exercise? Are you, having a good life, a happy life, a purposeful life? All of that is going to be the determining factor as to whether you're going to get sick or not. So, I'll give you examples. I've been in practice, we've talked about almost more than 30 years now. And then what happens is I get people coming into the office sick. They're sneezing, they're coughing, they're this, they're that. I never got sick, right? Now, if I am stressed, I didn't get enough sleep, I had a very stressful week, I ate the wrong things day after day, guess who's going to get sick? Me.
Yep.
Right? And it's not because somebody sneezed in my face. It's because I didn't take care of the basics in my body. And so the only way you can absolutely say a germ causes this disease is there's a postulate called Koch's postulate in science. And what they do is they say, okay, let's say you and your best friend are both coughing. We're going to take the mucus from both of you, and we're going to now give it to a healthy person and see if they get sick and have the same exact symptoms as you do. If that is what happens, then you know that whatever you have is causing the disease, right? So that's how you know for sure something causes a disease. And there are things that you can point to and identify very readily. Like, for example, when you have giardia or amoebas or, some kind of parasite, worm parasite, every person who has these things is going to have the same exact symptoms. Every single time. So that can tell me that this pathogen causes this disease. But if you take, for example, let's just say a cold or a flu, I can guarantee you that the way you experience a cold and the way I experience a cold are completely different. We have different symptoms. It lasts a different number of days or number of times. Some people, you have fever, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it affects your stomach, sometimes it doesn't. You know what? That's not a pathogen. Something that went wrong inside of you that created a reaction from the immune system. So you have to be careful when you say, well, I gave you that. Well, we are very empathic to each other. So yeah, maybe I decided to join the ride with you and be miserable with you because I feel for you, but it's not because you gave it to me.
Well, yeah, now we're opening the door to a whole other territory.
Yeah, I know.
But in terms of viruses, it was about a year and a half ago, a little bit less. I visited a coworker friend who got an Airbnb on the beach in Florida. He's like, come for the weekend. You want to hang out? I got the place here. I'm like, hey, great, no problem. So I go, and I'm going there to relax too. I'm on the patio looking at the ocean, just sitting there in the sun, getting my vitamin D, just relaxing. And he's coughing a little bit. And I'm like, what's up with you, dude? He's like, oh, I got an allergy. And I'm thinking, I don't know about that. Come home. A few days later, I develop a fever. I haven't been sick in like half my life like this. Got a fever that lasted like 4 days, low grade. Then I lost my voice. I lost it for 2 weeks. Then I developed something on my neck. Now, I've dealt with skin cancer over the years. Yeah. Something on my neck presented and then started growing rapidly. And it was a type of skin cancer I never had before. Then I did labs and I found out that I had elevated ferritin levels.
Oh, wow.
All of this going on at once. Yeah. to the point where I had to have surgery for the skin cancer. The ferritin levels, after a bunch of visits, and they couldn't figure anything out, and it wasn't, there's
Probably
a thing.
inflammation.
Thank you. Inflammation. And even I said to the doctor, I'm like, if I remember correctly, when COVID was in its infancy, ferritin levels was the marker, how they determined that there was inflammation.
Inflammation.
And I swear the thing just wreaked havoc in my body to the point where I might have had something, skin cancer-y hanging out there, but had never presented. Might have been years before it showed or whatever. 12 weeks, I'm on an operating table for it. It was, what a ride that was. And I don't know why it hit me at that point. I mean, I don't think it was depleted.
Think about, you go on an airplane. Every time you go on an airplane, you are, compromising your immune system, because one of the recirculating air, you don't know what's recirculating, what you're breathing. Number two, radiation. When you go on an airplane, you get a lot of radiation. You tend to also get, some dehydration. It's not a toxic-free environment, is what I'm trying to say. So you get exposed to the toxins on the way there. Then you're in somebody else's house eating different food from different water, different bacteria, different everything. And then you get stuck in the toxic tunnel to go home again, right?
Toxic tunnel. Oh, I'm never going to forget that one. That's so good. The toxic tunnel. Yeah, where you going? I'm going to go to Florida. Going to take the toxic tunnel. Wow.
It. And so that's probably what happened, is you got exposed to a lot of poisons and toxins. And then you probably had some concerns as to, what did your friend have and how come now I'm sick, right? So, things inflamed you. That's what happened. Things inflamed you, and then it affected other things, like the little tag in your neck. Once your immune system is revved up and compromised, well, other things are going to get out of hand too, because inflammation was rampant.
Yeah. And do you feel that in a situation, and just using it as an example, that it was a combination of things? So it wasn't necessarily my friend coughing. I didn't necessarily get it from him, but could have been the plane, could have been maybe a little bit of stress floating out there, could have been his, coughing or whatever. All of that, like the perfect storm, in other words.
Right. Did you guys drink?
Of course.
There you go. There's another thing you normally don't do that you probably did a little more with him.
Yeah, not a lot or anything like that, but we, a couple of beers here and there, and
it's another factor to add into that, right?
So, would you say that when we talk about these factors, it's like being in the ring with a prize fighter, where, all right, you have a couple of drinks, you knock your immune system a notch down. On the plane, maybe something was in the air, take it a notch down. Then he's sick a little bit, notch down, to the point where now you're down on the mat.
There you go.
Okay.
Exactly.
Wow.
Right? And usually what I've found is people tend to get sick during a time of vacation rather than during a time of work. Because what happens is people let down their defenses and their hurriedness. And it's like, oh, now I can relax. And then the body goes, oh, good, here, let's put you to bed.
Right. And I took the security off of you because you're relaxing, but now everything goes in. And of course, we're factoring out the report of a cruise ship, 120 something people with norovirus just reported this morning.
I'm always, all those reports that the news is very notorious at grabbing any reason for any little bit of a virus and making it the next pandemic. Okay. That's what they do.
Yeah. We'll put a pin on that one, as they say.
Yeah.
Love your insight on this. And it's very easy to understand. It really is. What's the best way to connect with you, and who can you work with?
So I can work with people who have chronic pain, who have chronic illnesses, who also want gentle chiropractic. And I'm at 760-519-1759. And my website is integratedmedicineministries.com.
Gotcha. You are just loaded with information about this and so much more. Debbie, thank you for being here today, and looking forward next time we get together.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.